Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast as part of our 16 Days of Activism series. I am so excited to be facilitating the podcast today, and we have as our guest speaker Natalie Ogden, who is the founder of Red Light, and that is part of the Domino Foundation, which is a local organization. Hey, it was based here in Durban. Awesome. So Natalie, just to kick off, can you please tell me a little bit about the work you do? What does Domino do? How does that relate to Red Light? And the work you kind of do day to day.
So the Domino Foundation has got about 9 different programs that they're actively engaged in. One of the pillars is justice, and that's the department that I oversee. We've got mercy as well as disaster. It's mercy. It's mercy, justice, and empowerment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, don't actually quote me on that. My marketing team's going to kill me. I'm brief chair. I oversee justice. And basically, we do various things from a baby's home. Various different teams are busy doing a lot of work in the schools. So early childhood development, we've got teams running with that. Life skills, going into the schools after, very similar to what you guys are doing. And as well as skills development, so your tertiary, BE kind of environment. We've also got nutrition, feeding into schools, creches, disasters, which I think happened just pre-COVID. Yeah. The team felt led to start exploring disasters management, and when COVID hit, it all made sense. So they are working with multiple organizations all over the city, government, and just managing all those logistics with them whenever there's a disaster. And one of the programs that I oversee is their advocacy arm, which is Red Light, which was adopted into the Domino Foundation in 2007.
Amazing. Incredible. So with Red Light, you do a lot of rehabilitation with women on the streets, referred to as sex workers, but also ladies of the night. What is the term that you would normally use when engaging with these women?
So our program refers to them as survival sex workers. There is so much conversation going around at the moment, and so much research being done around sex workers, about the legalization of prostitution, and we, as the Domino Foundation, are very much leaning towards the partial decriminalization of sex work. So saying that these women aren't necessarily wanting to be in this, and there's a lot of cohesion, and Red Light was birthed out of wanting to impact the human trafficking arena, wanting to pray into it, do awareness, do prevention work and restoration. So where that's kind of led us over quite a few years is we have always managed to have doors open working with sex workers, and within that space is where we often find our victims of GBV and human trafficking in order to work with. And when for lack of better words, when their story is more concrete, they've been through recovery and stuff, and their story is starting to match up. Once they've detoxed and everything and kind of worked through the years and years of trauma, we're able to refer them to the appropriate organizations dealing with GBV or human trafficking or repatriation and stuff like that.
Yeah. And when you and I were chatting just before, there's something you said that I thought was actually so relevant and significant. You said that your work sometimes always isn't penned as GBV advocacy and anti-GBV work. And a lot of the time we forget because there's lots of stigma and there's moral and principle conversations that come into play. But if you could just explain again for the listeners, what is that overlap with GBV, sex work, human trafficking? Like, how do they bleed into one another?
So it's really a topic that you could speak on for ages, but how I kind of feel about it personally is, I think one of the problems with GBV is that when there's no respect, there's kind of stigma, people's stories aren't kept confidential, they're not safe and stuff like that. So as I've kind of walked the journey over the years, I've sat with businessmen, I've sat with teachers, I've sat with parents, I've sat with children, and what I keep seeing throughout the different stages is I personally have never met a sex worker on the beachfront or on the street, and I've never had a partner that has said to me, oh, we found a sex worker that actually loves doing what she does. Yeah. And what we found that a lot of these women that we are coming across, they are men as well and stuff like that, but they don't want to be there. They are doing it because they are needing to feed a drug habit. They're there because they fell pregnant out of wedlock with a boyfriend or multiple boyfriends, and there seems to be generational patterns there. The family environment's not safe. We've had pastors' daughters. We've had people from all over, different socioeconomic backgrounds and stuff. And the lead theme that I keep coming across, and our biggest hurdle as Red Light, is when I bring a survival sex worker that's been severely, violently harmed, they never want to report it to the police because they know that they have a criminal record already for sex work. They're going to come up on the system. They have to explain that it was a client that did it to them, and it's often more than not a recurring client. And I think just through the lessons in life that they've basically learned is I have no value, I have no voice, I have no safe place to go, and I'm going to jump through all these hoops with this organization, and I'm just going to land up back where I am. So the girls that we work with, they've had multiple interventions. They've had many people taking them, and even a lot of the GBV centers that we've spoken to, when if we're full or we're unable to take a girl immediately, they have to also, and it's not a judgment or a blame thing, they need to consider the fact that she's on substance. Yes, she's been beaten or raped or whatever, but she's needing to detox. They don't necessarily have the facilities to do that. So there's just so many unsafe places for a survival sex worker that's been forced to be on drugs or chose to be on drugs, but now is stuck in that cycle. There's no way for them to get out, and they do. That's part of the violence, is that becomes part of the entrapment. Yes. You know, them needing substances and stuff, and their dealers using them to sleep with clients to get the drugs. So it's very, very complicated, and unfortunately we don't have clean-cut referral paths and stuff like that. And what we find is why we've been able to operate in the space that we operate is that there's nowhere else to refer these ladies to. We have some incredible safe houses that have assisted us in the past, but they can only do it for a short period because she doesn't meet the criteria, because you need to open a police docket or a police case. And then you get referred by a DST to a place of safety. But without that, you're just referring a lady that said, I've been harmed. So you need to follow process, you need to follow policy. It's been put there in place for a reason. And we just find that a lot of the ladies that we come across are falling short because they're unwilling to go to the police station, or they say they're fearful. Sometimes they really are fearful. Sometimes they actually just want to get back onto the streets and get their next fix. So you're dealing with almost like a group of people that you need to be extremely careful how you respond, where you place them, because you also don't want to cause secondary trauma at a GBV center by just throwing a girl in there and stuff. So there's a lot of complications and a lot of loopholes.
Yeah, but you can hear you've been in it for such a long time, and you're definitely passionate about it, which is incredible, and we're so excited to have you. And yeah, it's so important that you've brought this up, because it affects women on the street. It affects women and children maybe who also aren't in a healthy economic standing or haven't been raised in the right kind of environment. But how would you say, from your experience and your own opinion, how would you say that gender-based violence can affect all of us? And that's not playing a victim mentality as women, because men are impacted by it. You know, that whole, it's a cultural system, and it's a thing that's come over many South Africans. And often we think violent behavior is just kicking and punching and the extremes, whereas it can just be repeated verbal abuse, emotional abuse, breaking people down, discrimination, undermining someone in their abilities. Violent behavior is always harmful behavior that's essentially repeated. So in your opinion, how do you think we all, rich and poor, regardless of our background, do you believe that we all experience gender-based violence and encounter it at some point in our lives?
So obviously the stats say 1 in 4. If you look at globally, it's saying 1 in 3 women. How I'm going to respond to this is say that it kind of has a ripple effect. So if someone is sexually abused or verbally abused, or due to their social situations such as forced marriages and stuff like that, it definitely has a generational ripple effect, not only in the family. So remember, you've got a young girl that's being abused by her boyfriend, potential husband, she gets pregnant, she's in that situation. The parents often end up taking care of the children in that situation. The community often find that they're not happy with what's going on in their community, so they're trying to intervene or push out or disassociate and get rid of or fix. And then the schooling systems are having to take care of those children because there's no money coming in. So I know I'm giving a very general example, but there's this massive ripple effect of one person's life that will affect families, communities, the society at large. And it's not something that has a clean little line that you can draw. And
just clean cause and effect.
Yes. Yeah. So, I think no one is mitigated from that. The risk is everywhere, whether you're male, female, young, old. But I think, again, with anything that is an injustice, it tends to often prey on the most vulnerable. So women are the weaker sex when it comes to strength in general. Children are weaker when it comes to standing up for their rights, the elderly or the disabled or impaired. So it often, what makes it so evil and so complicated is it's often done to those who don't have a means to protect themselves. So perpetrators don't go and punch a big guy in the office. They're going to go choose.
They'll prey on what is weaker.
Yes, they're going to prey on what they feel is the safest for them. So their risk factors are taken care of when it's a child or a disabled or a elderly or vulnerable person that they know needs them, and are able to manipulate and use that. So yeah,
that was such a good answer that actually shifted my perspective on it a lot, because you forget that it is a ripple effect, and you mentioned even a generational trauma, which you forget about, and that's so significant in a country like ours. So that was a fatherless nation. Was such a good answer. I really, really loved that. And to kind of close off with our last question that kind of links to this one that we've just discussed. So we've now spoken about it. GBV is actually an issue that affects us all, and actually as South Africans, there is a degree of responsibility within all of us to do something or use what's in our hands to either raise awareness or just do something to help a situation or a person in need. So based on your experience, what are some daily practical things perhaps that each of us could do to better promote gender equality, or better promote mutual respect and the care and protection specifically among women and children? What are some daily practical things we could do in that space?
So obviously considering the audience that we're speaking today, we often find that people will phone me personally and they'll say, I've got a sex worker, I found her, I've taken her to hospital, what must I do next? And something that we always stress in the GBV arena, and it's basically a global practice, is if you do come across a GBV situation, whether it be at work or school or church or wherever, they always say take care of the urgent needs first. So if they do need hospital attention or there is some sort of help needed that's urgent, to obviously follow that, but to always make sure that you yourself are safe. So I think that's something that I'm often witnessing being neglected, is they don't put their own safety first when engaging. So someone on the public will take a survival sex worker, put her in their vehicle and take her to the hospital. Keeping in mind that it's a very dangerous thing to do in South Africa. So I think number one, always make sure that you are safe, rather call someone to be with you or call the ambulance or call someone that's actually a humanitarian aid that's able to assist. So that would definitely be one thing that I just want to stress. As big and as brave as our hearts are, I do think that you can also cause a lot of secondary trauma and stuff if you're not sure what you're doing. So something that just from someone that works a lot with the public, and the public are often referring cases and trying to work with us, I think it's our job to know what information and accurate information is available in your area. So there's no point in Maddie referring someone down the road if she comes from a semi-rural community and you know that she's not going to receive the same help and assistance. So definitely be aware of that. I think providing information is your first point, giving them the information in order for them to take the next steps. If a survivor asks you to assist them and says, please won't you make the phone call for me, remember they're in a state of trauma. I think it's very important that you listen carefully, but that you also understand that everything that is being said to you is extremely confidential, and you do not get to repeat it, because you don't know what the consequences for their safety are down the road, and stuff like that, or even your safety. So listen carefully. Remember, confidentiality is of utmost importance, and then consent. So you can't pick up the phone and call the police on their behalf. I think unless their life is in impending danger, if it's just someone that's come up to you in the office saying, my husband beats me and I'm really scared, offer their information. If they want you to call someone for them, get that consent, and tell them who you're going to call before you call. I'm going to call the police. This is what I'm going to do. And then allow them to actually give you permission. I find that that's very helpful, because in the past, you said, we're going to call so-and-so, and they'll go, okay, actually, that's not what I want. So it's very important that you involve them in that, and respect their refusal. So many times I have had members of the public fight with a survival sex worker because after 3 days of being in hospital and a place of safety, she's actually decided she's going to go back home. She's not going to put forward a case and stuff because she's had time to think about it, and they get so angry because of the injustice that they feel is going to be left and taken care of.
Yeah, if they try to push forward with this, would they just be let down again?
So definitely, if you're a family, talk to your family members about it. If it's something that's prevalent in your community, if it's happening a lot at their schools and stuff like that, just have honest, open conversations, explain the basics, you're allowed to listen, but you're not allowed to talk to other people about it, make sure you're safe, all those little just handles. But I think your biggest weapon is understanding the referral process. So even as Natalie, from the Domino Foundation, that's been doing this for years, I don't put her in my car. I follow the referral process. We contact DSD if it is a GBV case. We work alongside various different departments, and that's why we have the safe house that we have, because where her case gets stuck, and if she's really willing and she wants to get out of this, yet she doesn't fit any of the links in the boxes, that's where we get her referred to us. So I think knowing the referral pathway, knowing how to do that, especially as a church. I think we've seen a lot of secondary trauma where people try to start counseling and then try to hold them accountable for that counseling. And, the person sharing the information does need to have consent and confidentiality respected. And so understanding what you're actually dealing with on a bigger level, and how to protect yourself, your teams, your family. You have an example that I always give people whenever we talk about GBV is, if you as a man see a woman getting beaten and you intervene and punch the man, often what happens is there'll be a case open against you for assault, because they've now rekindled, because she's not yet ready to exit the abusive relationship and stuff. So definitely report it. Don't go looking for it. You never know. So we've also had cases where people will go to someone's house and try to pull them out of a dangerous situation, which actually causes a lot more harm and actually perpetuates the violence and stuff like that. So I think know what's going on in your community, know what centers are available, get to know them if it is something that is big on your heart. And just link, partner. You don't have to save them, but you can give them the information that they need and refer them to the right referrals, and be a good listener and respect them.
Yeah, and then trust that process that's been laid out for you. Yeah.
Obviously, children is a different situation, but again, phone partners like Lifeline, Childline, and just phone hotlines that deal with this every day, and make sure that you, with a child, take care of their best interest first.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll be providing a lot of those resources throughout the 16 days, or by the time people have watched this now, a lot of that would have already been made available. But that's incredible. Such comprehensive answers and such unique perspectives and very healthy reminders that I think you provided us with today, Nat. So we're really, really grateful for your time. And we really commend the work you're doing, because it's not pretty and it's not easy. And it's that daily grit to actually wake up and understand that every little thing you do will have that inverse ripple effect, hopefully going out. And hopefully with more collaboration and finding those gaps, we can eventually change the tide of GBV in our country. So yeah, we're going to end off there. Thank you so much again for your time. We really appreciate it. And we really hope that this has helped anybody listening today. Thank you for watching.